Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us for another session where we have one of the customer success executives joining us in sharing things that are actually changing in their business, how they're embracing digital engagement to elevate customer engagement, to increase renewals. And I'm very excited to have Tiffany Morin come in again to speak about what she's doing. This time she's at Emerson, one of the largest companies in the world. And I am so excited for her to join us because it's such a big company in its industry. They're making big changes in customer success. And if you ever thought the digital CS is for the small customer cohort, think again. Tiffany completely flipped the chart on this one. She's serving digital CS for every single one of the customers that is in her customer portfolio, whether it's a small customer or a large account. And they're seeing tremendous results in probability for renewals and usage. And in fact, I am not going to be too surprised if customer satisfaction scores are going much higher. I think you already have some empirical evidence on that from customer conversations. So, Tiffany, without further ado, first of all, thank you so much for joining us again.
Happy to be here. And as Irit mentioned, I'm here to talk about how we're scaling sensible segments and digesting digital success, not just within our long tail customers, but within high touch as well, that we were scaling communication as best possible.
First of all, Tiff, I have the opportunity to talk to many executives in large companies. And I think the number one thing that I've seen is, albeit the fact that these are multi-billion-dollar companies, when they start with customer success, the executive in charge of that initiative doesn't have a lot of resources, don't get served for with a large team. It's almost like management is still very skeptical about customer success, and there's a lot of misconceptions around what customer success is. You recently started with Emerson. You actually joined National Instruments and then it became Emerson. Maybe you could share, if you don't mind. I know it's a public company, but as much as you can, what are some of the misconceptions that you ran into when you were sharing about what is customer success and what your team is going to do with other executives in the company that may have been working for this public company for a very long time?
So, customer success is new to Emerson, it's new to NI. So, I think there was a lot of lack of understanding of what the role does exactly. Is it customer support? Is it project management? All of the things that some pushback and I think questions, misconception that when customer success first became a profession, we as customer success executives were facing. So it was like coming back to that. Emerson is investing heavily in its software business, which customer success playing in software, playing in a recurring revenue model, it's positioned well to be very successful here at NI and also here at Emerson. And so some of those misconceptions, more so just a lack of understanding of what the role is. Is it technical support? No, it's not. And then positioning, well, given the size of the team that I have, which was very small to start, how do we scale it as best possible? And then also removing belief that I need a very large team in order to be successful. Hey, there are digital initiatives in place to scale a lot of this communication where maybe I don't have a CSM covered, but still the customers get feeling like they're getting the one-to-many, the personalized touch engagement that is just scaled awareness rather than the one-to-one via CSM. So those are the biggest misconceptions that we faced. And how I went about solving that was I told the team, let's just prove value. Similar to customer interactions, let's have key moments of value. Let's document that let's share the good news, build advocates so that they're sharing the good news. And by that, creating more groundswell demand for customer success, demanded awareness for customer success. Just recently, I presented at all of the sales all hands workshops. And what I had done there was, here's customer success, why it's important to our customers, but why it's important to sales, why sales should be involving customer success in their accounts, how it saves their time so that they could focus on what they do best, which is selling, finding the next PO. And just by that awareness, just by showing what the value of customer success is, it helped with a lot of the misconceptions while also helping to drive demand for a growing department.
Okay, so it sounds like, as expected, most public companies that had been in business for a while, when they first get the customer success executive, they give them a very small team. I think the misconception is sometimes the executive that comes in are so shocked by the lack of resources and they get stuck in, wow, but I need to tackle the strategic accounts first. And I don't have a lot of team in place to tackle that cohort in a reasonable manner. But you actually took that situation and you said, okay, if this is what I have to play with, instead of just tackling a high touch model that's very traditional approach to begin with, you start thinking about how can I do that in a scalable way. And I think that that's a little different. So maybe you can tell me, besides doing a roadshow that sounds like it was extremely successful, what was that engagement model that you started opening up?
Before I jump into the engagement model, one of the first things that I did was look at is segment our customers. So who are our largest customers who in a perfect world should be getting that dedicated support? Who are our mid-tier customers, that tier 2 versus tier 3, which is just purely distribution, purely digital. I said, all right, in a theoretical world, this is our segment list. And then I took with what I had 2 enterprise CSMs who were just managing a certain product line. I changed that where they're managing the accounts globally across all products. And I assigned them our biggest revenue accounts. When I assigned them, I made sure they did kickoff calls with each of the individual global account managers and account managers. I was there talking about customer success, talking about some of the activities, ensuring that a customer handoff occurred. And so then we kicked off the enterprise CSM activities with the team available, which wasn't a lot of accounts. It was probably maybe 10 of our largest accounts, but still that's 10 accounts that weren't fully covered prior to that. For everything else, that's where they got the scaled touch. And then for any of the long tail, that's where we ingested some of the digital. So this was the engagement model that we set forward with. And so we have a tier 1, which is very much one-to-one, anything above $1 million in annual recurring revenue. Then the one to some, as I call it, which is the scaled segment. Some might call it pooled. And so that's accounts between 1 million and 250,000 annual recurring revenue. And then we have the one to many. I assigned what resources available. My 2 enterprise CSMs were that tier 1. My scaled team was that tier 2. And then I ingested some digital customer success activities where possible. And so, yes, there were coverage gaps, but I maximized my existing team with the most valuable accounts to start, just so that we get the most value possible and start showing success. For everything else, everyone also received some type of digital engagement. All customers, regardless if they're big or small, they want to self-serve. They want digital engagement. They want engagement at scale. I don't always want to reach out to my CSM for every software that I have. In order to do that, we set up a digital customer success team. That was one of the first teams that we set up here, creating in-app engagement, email engagement across all of these segments. And so that's how we ensure that all customers, regardless of my team size, regardless of resourcing issue, capacity issue, all of our customers were getting some type of engagement with us. In fact, in the past year, we've roughly almost quadrupled engagement with our accounts. And yes, that sounds like a lot. Before customer success, a lot of our customers, their experience with us was fragmented. They maybe didn't hear from us until renewal time, which isn't the ideal customer experience. And so we created digital engagements along the customer journey based on several key touch points, but either way, with the goal of ensuring our customers are engaged with content that matters to them most. And then maximizing my team size, where those tier 1s, where my team does have capacity, are getting that enterprise customer success experience. And then everything else, they're getting that scaled digital engagement based on triggers like kickoff calls or midpoint reviews, or maybe they're seeing an increase in support tickets, anything to help right time, right place messaging to optimize my scaled team. So this is an example of how I scaled my resources to the best of the ability, despite having a small team, but proving value rather quickly.
I think that a lot of executives and folks in CS and especially account managers that have to work with customer success might initially be a little bit apprehensive around offering digital CS to enterprise accounts. One of the reasons is, for example, if a CSM is working with an enterprise account or an account manager owns an enterprise account, they don't want to be surprised, especially if the account is in red and all of a sudden we're sending them a survey asking them for an NPS score or things of that nature. Like, how did you resolve? Did you have any kind of concerns raised up when you first said, hey, we're going to send emails to everyone? And How did you tackle avoiding this risk?
So, especially in the mass scale email communication, we work very closely with marketing. And so we make sure we're completely compliant with all company branding, all company messaging, which I think removes some of the bigger lift. That does slow down communication a bit, but either way, we're on brand with our messaging, which does create a level of comfort with the account managers. Outside of that, we do ensure that there is visibility of the types of communication that we're running. Because there was limited communication to start, the communication that we've started with have been basic engagements that our customers should expect. Here's what's new with LabVIEW. Here's what's new with Test Stand. Here's how we've changed the LabVIEW for academic use. So it's informative customer information that it should to know, not necessarily need to know information. So table stakes. And because it was more table stakes information, we got a lot less pushback on it. That's from the digital side. From the scaled and also enterprise team standpoint, we made sure that account managers were aware of any communication that we were sending in mass. Once again, all the communication that we're sending were very informative. Here's the training credits that you have available. Hey, here's a new webinar coming up. So there was no surprises from account management on what the teams were sending.
What would you say is the difference between an enterprise CSM and an account manager that are basically working on the same account? How did you differentiate between the roles and making sure that each one of them has a separate swim lane?
When we initially defined the role, we made sure that it had very clear charters between sales and customer success. Customer success also recently moved into the sales role. We aligned with sales leadership to say, given the size of our sales team, these are the things customer success is going to work on versus sales. So sales responsible for expansion at different accounts. They're responsible for renewal conversations, for example, versus customer success responsible for a lot of those engagement type activities. Aligning with leadership, defining the roles very clearly, having a team charter is one. But since it is new, when we had kickoff calls with the account managers about the accounts, we'd review, all right, let's get agreement on what activities customer success is going to take off your plate versus what you're still going to have to continue to do given my team size. And just by gaining alignment on those kickoff calls with the individual account managers and global account managers, it made things a lot easier. It was one used for education, but then also to clearly delineate the roles and responsibilities between the two roles.
Can you share a little bit about what is the difference between an enterprise CSM in your organization and a scaled CSM? Is that like a pooled model? Can you expand a little bit on how you structured that segment, that engagement model?
So enterprise CSM here is they cover our largest customers. So customers with the highest spend in terms of dollar value. They're developing personalized engagement with these customers. They're fostering deeper relationships. They're driving adoption plans. They're increasing advocacy. They're dedicated to the account. And given the size of our large accounts, they handle the account globally. So they're working with each of the account's global regional locations. They're working with the account admins. They're working with the account decision makers. They're creating things like success plans. They're creating engagement roadmaps for the year for these accounts. They're doing some scaled activities, absolutely, but they're the dedicated accounts. They're also, from an experience level, more experienced in the scaled team, which does give me growth opportunity for the team as they scale from the one-to-many CSM to the dedicated CSM. So that's the enterprise CSM. They're dedicated, the very high touch, working with the customer on driving customer outcomes, versus my scale team handles a much larger set of accounts and they're brought in ad hoc. Like maybe they need a customer kickoff call. Maybe there's a question about licensing, for example. Maybe we're seeing a dip in usage. And so the customer success manager is going to come in with their toolkit of scaled activities to help solve for that. And so the scaled team, more junior in terms of level of experience, they're handling larger volumes of activities. And it is usually low, easy to do activities at scale. Like, for example, kickoff webinars or midpoint reviews, for example.
How do you create the tasks and activities or assign activities for that scaled CS?
One of the first things we done was we did outside of segmenting the customer base, we also defined the triggers. Some of the triggers, though they are manual for us to understand, We upload the data on a quarterly basis to say, all right, are we seeing a decline in usage? That would be a trigger. Are they coming up for renewal? That's a certain trigger. Are they starting a new agreement with us? That's a certain type of trigger that would then dictate certain types of activities, like kickoff calls. Let's make sure they have the right types of licensing, et cetera, are aware. Let's make sure their enterprise agreement flyer with all of the right information is updated, versus a decline in usage, say midterm. All right, maybe let's do an awareness webinar. Maybe let's run a campaign letting them know that they have extra training credits that they could perhaps utilize. So it's all based on manual triggers from the data that we have available, but there's still triggers nonetheless that we do use to inform their types of activities and prioritize their activities.
Where do you manage assignment of activities, and how do you hold them accountable to close those tasks, if you will, in a timely manner?
Especially with some of the activities which do require some coordination from the account manager, is we take a look at the data and we make sure, are these activities in fact happening? Another thing that I had done when scaling my team was provide more managerial support. And so the scaled team now has a dedicated manager, which is ensuring a lot of these activities do in fact happen. And then they'll be raising the reports to me of any issues that happen. Say there's an EA kickoff that perhaps isn't happening. Well, why? Is it because we're getting pushback from the customer, the account manager? Like, why aren't those activities happening? I've been at NI for about a year now, and so this is a rigor that we are developing. Eventually, we'll have a CTA in place where it'll be very clear that, hey, you need to complete this. Until then, we're just kind of looking through the manual reporting to make sure that it is happening. Our accounts are getting their kickoffs, they're getting their midpoint reviews. We'll make it more consistent in terms of triggers. But for now, a lot of it's just managerial auditing, which is effective enough for now.
Am I getting this right? You're currently managing the scaled model or the pooled model in potentially like something like Excel spreadsheet, or have you already incorporated into your CSP or CRM system?
It's in our CRM system. We document the different types of activities, whether it's a kickoff, whether it's maybe we're creating a landing page or doing a customer email. All of it's documented in Salesforce, which is our single source of truth for anything account related. Even success planning on the enterprise side, that's all documented in Salesforce, at least until we can get a customer success system in place. Salesforce is our go-to. And that also allows us opportunity to create reports so that the managers can then audit some of the activity.
Which leads me to my next question. As an executive of the team, what are your questions about the scaled model, and what kind of reports or dashboards or KPIs are you tracking to make sure that you can prove the value of the team and also identify areas and opportunities for improvement of efficiency, productivity, and quality over time?
One, having started several customer success teams, the data is never perfect. You can't wait for the data in order for the activities to happen. You will fail if you do that. And so we leverage the tools that we had available. And though the data isn't perfect, we treat it as directional. So yes, we have activity reporting. That's pretty straightforward. We could report on that. It could be very, very self-service. We do on a quarterly basis, because it is manual, pull the usage reports of usage as well as training credits, which give us an insight on adoption and whether or not we can directionally prove that these activities are driving success. We then also look at, from an engagement standpoint, are we seeing open rates with the digital campaigns? How many people are attending our kickoff webinars? How many people are attending our user groups? Are we seeing growth in user group development? And so leveraging, even though the data isn't perfect, the data that we have available to draw attribution. And what I would say is advice from any executive in customer success: don't wait until the data is perfect. Leverage what you can, provide reporting, and ensure that's shared across not just within your teams, but also as an executive level.
You mentioned user groups, webinars, campaigns. Those are three of the things that you're doing as part of that scaled CS and digital CS initiatives. Anything else that you've dabbled with recently and noticed that had an impact in terms of engaging these customers in a scaled approach?
From a scaled standpoint, those are great examples. One major success that we've had from a digital standpoint is leveraging in-app engagement. And so the digital customer success team now is the tool owner for our in-app communication. And we've been A/B testing, experimenting with different types of language. We've been doing user group promotions. We've been doing new product release awareness information, and it's been fantastic. That has probably been one of our most successful outlets for scaling customer communication, to the end users, which we don't often have the emails for. And so that's been successful. And I'll give you an example. Recently, we have one of our product lines that we didn't traditionally do a lot of promotion for the upcoming releases, and we started to do that. It has 4 times the amount of engagement in terms of the product release notifications as of any product. One, because we've recently done several enhancements to that product, but we're letting customers know now, sometimes for the first time in a very long time, that, hey, this is what's new. Even though, of course, we've done development over the past several years, but customers are like, oh man, this is content we've never had before. We didn't know this was available to us. So raising awareness for the many things our product team is working on has been probably our most successful digital engagement thus far.
You would think that the product team has like release notes. How did they do that before? Did they not send an email?
It wasn't an email. We just started posting it on our website. We would let customers know in conversation with them, but we weren't necessarily scaling product release awareness up until very recently.
In-app messages, campaigns, like a good campaign, what kind of engagement do you see with customers?
So this is a great example of one of our tried and true products, LabVIEW. And so one of the challenges that we had was LabVIEW user engagement without resulting in human interaction. So scaling awareness for different LabVIEW features. And we implemented notification using, in this case, we use Gainsight PX in collaboration with product marketing, R&D, and then also the digital success team. All digital communication related to product. It is a very collaborative approach between the product managers to ensure we're aligning on their releases, and then also just from a communication cadence standpoint. It was a very successful engagement. For example, users received at least 3 engagements that had a 3.6% increase in renewal probability. And so this particular engagement not only raised awareness for a lot of the different features available with our customer through subscription with LabVIEW, but we're also able to attribute it to their propensity to renew. And so this is a great example of engagement at scale tied to renewal probability. And once again, this is engagement just on basic product features available to our subscription SaaS customers. Seems like a very general and obvious communication, but it had very high ROI and very high value, just raising visibility on all of the amazing things that our product team is working on with LabVIEW.
I just wanted to mention to those who don't know, LabVIEW also has an on-prem version. And so you don't show that there's new features in the subscription model, there's no incentive to renew.
This is just one of the many things. Our product team is doubling down on investments in software, in R&D of a lot of our core offerings, like LabVIEW, for example. And our digital success team is just raising the awareness of all of the amazing things the team is working on.
You also mentioned user groups. What does that entail exactly? Is that something new you launched, or are you doubling down on existing initiatives?
User groups are a key focus of ours going into fiscal year 25. And so we recently brought in a head of digital and community by the name of 𝘰𝐿𝑖, who is doing massive efforts to totally revamp our user group community. LabVIEW has many advocates, many champions that we just didn't engage for a very, very long time. And so Eli, having spent his entire career at NI, many times spent in LabVIEW, is an advocate himself. And so he's the perfect sponsor to help further grow our user group community. And how he's working with customer success is we're bringing in speakers. We're ensuring that all of our top customers are developing LabVIEW user groups. We'll bring in speakers, we'll coordinate everything for them until we can make it as self-service as possible for our customers. But we're investing heavily in our user groups, coaching our advocates, trying to find more advocates, just further building our community, which is very important and the lifeblood of NI. And so they're finally getting the love and attention that they need. Further investing in 𝘰𝐿𝑖, who's absolutely fantastic, and then also my team to help execute on a lot of these activities.
You mentioned bringing on speakers. I assume that that dovetails into the webinars you've mentioned for clients. So usually marketing sets up webinars for prospects, but you in fact take that tool and create a schedule of webinars for your existing customer base. What did you find resonated the most, had the most amount of clients actually logging in, registering, and engage in webinars with presenters?
What drives the most engagement, if it's not obvious, is fun topics. And fun topics, obviously fun is relative, but we just did a pretty big webinar for one of our larger customers on a product offering test stand. And it was a more technical webinar on how to use test stand with maybe their specific frameworks, for example. And it was to an audience of engineers. And usually we bring in maybe our product manager or even someone higher level in R&D to talk about all of the amazing things that we're releasing, but then also how it's relevant to our customers and relevant to the audience within the webinar. So I'd say those are by far our most successful, not just awareness, but then also getting our customers excited about all of the intricate things they can do as engineers with our technology.
So if I can translate that, it's almost like you're creating webinars showcasing all the colors and things that they can do with the solution, expanding potentially perceived value, additional use cases, making them better at their job.
Exactly. And then just making it a feature is a feature. Why does the feature matter to an engineer? Those webinars help bridge the gap and then build excitement for our different product offerings.
Okay, we talked a lot about what is your scaled CS engagement model, aka pooled model, and how do you operate that at a very rudimentary way, at least initially, which is okay, your new segmentation approach. I wanted to ask you, do you have customers going in and out of being an enterprise high touch model and back into the scaled CS pending specific attributes, or the strategic accounts had been determined and they're the ones that have a dedicated CSM for years to come? How are you looking at this? Do you have dynamic segmentation?
Yes, it has to be dynamic. It has to be agile. Accounts can move up segments. They can also move down segments. Since our customer success team is new, we're prioritizing customers that ask for help. We're prioritizing account managers that ask for help. So we're a little bit more flexible with our segments now. There's always instances where sales is like, I don't know if this account's quite ready because maybe there's certain intricacies going on with the accounts. Maybe there's some renewal risk sensitivities. There are many reasons why customer success may not be involved at some of our strategic accounts. And so we're keeping that in mind. Either way, it is always best practice to ensure your segments are as agile as possible because accounts grow. And as accounts grow, they should naturally reach higher segments. There are instances where maybe the account's growing, but the scaled model fits their need. That's okay from the customer expectation standpoint. So yes, I'd say it's very common for accounts to move up and down segments depending on growth opportunities or say downgrades, or maybe they're just okay with more of a, I prefer just the digital touch only experience. And hey, that's absolutely fine given the size of the team that we have now as we're ramping.
I wanted to ask you, when you just joined, how many people did you have in your team? Because apparently now you need to have somebody manage these campaigns, manage the community, manage scaled CS, own enterprise accounts. I mean, did you have to increase the size of the team? What kind of roles do you have? Did you end up leverage existing resources from your current organization, or did you have to hire from outside?
Starting out, I had a team of 2 enterprise CSMs who just managed one product line. And so I switched that, segmented the accounts, assigned them accounts where they're managing things globally and across different products. So those were the 2 enterprise CSMs. I had a team of 4 scaled CSMs to start out with, a scaled CSM manager who also managed the scaled team as well as the digital team, which had 2 people. This person also managed our operations team. So we were a tiny but mighty startup of a customer success team. We have since invested in customer success. As mentioned, software is a key focus for Emerson, for NI, for our executive team, which means customer success is also a core focus of that. And so I have been able to invest in the team, open recs. We have started external hiring. And so now I have an enterprise team of 4 people, which is fantastic, hiring another. So we'll have an enterprise team of 5 people covering our largest accounts, still 4 scaled CSMs. We have since grown our operations team. So we now have an operations data analyst. We now have a program manager. Since we ensured that the person managing the many teams of digital and also operations, we now allowed him to focus on just the head of programs and operations, managing our programs team and operations. We put a team lead in above the scaled. And so not only are we scaling to a more mature customer success team across the different customer success functions, but then also offering manager support accordingly. We have invested in customer success, but one value also is we've combined the renewals and customer success team. And by combining the teams, it allowed me more budget flexibility to invest in the right types of resources. So, for example, the customer operations team handles operations across renewals and customer success. So both teams are now getting that support from a programs and customer success standpoint. We're then automating the renewals team workflow so that they can become more proactive. So now I have a mini arm of my renewal specialist globally who can then even further scale a lot of those customer success activities. That's still early on, more to come with that, but leveraging the resources at hand, getting creative with budgets to optimize and mature the team based on more best practice org structure and team support.
I think this is such a great conversation because there's so many large public companies that had been around for 20, 30 years that rack their brains around how to do customer success. And this is such a tremendous story to unfold where you actually did get a higher budget to have enterprise CSMs at the level that's needed. You're thinking about dynamic segmentations. You're doubling down on digital CS and pooled model in record time for these type of companies. What a huge success story. What is your vision for the next year or two, Tiffany, as you continue to unfold what's possible for Emerson in terms of customer success strategy?
My vision has always been the same. For year one, it was building a foundation for a customer success team. Now we're in year two. Where can we automate? Where could we scale? And so we've done the basics now. Now it's proving the value at scale. I have resources. I have more enterprise CSMs. We have to paint the value. Our customers should be having an improved customer experience. They should be, as a result, renewing because we're showing them all of the value with our features, expanding because we've showed them value, creating advocates, further maturing the customer success team down the maturity spectrum to the next level. And I'm just excited to show that customer success, why it has been a tried and true profession now for 15 plus years, proving that value at NI.
Tiffany, always a pleasure having you on the show. I want to thank you for your time and sharing your insights and expertise and all the good work that you do at NI Emerson. I wish you absolutely continued success. Thank you so much for coming on the show again.
Of course, thanks for having me, and more to come from me and NI as we invest in our software team and our customer success and ensuring our customers are as successful as possible across all of our product lines.
All right. If you learned something new, you had some aha moments in this conversation, if you're in a big organization and this kind of like opened up some thinking around what can be possible, here you go. This is how you do digital CS for enterprise clients, not just your smaller cohorts. You could see an uplift in 3% in renewals, better customer engagement, more adoption, excitement from clients, better experience. Doesn't take too many people to execute because it's all digital. All possible. And with that, it's a wrap, and I'll see you on the next video.